Tonight, the Supreme Court is temporarily allowing the new congressional map in Texas to be used for the midterms. Thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of KFOX 14 News at 9. I'm Jessica Gonzalez. Well, this comes after just this week, federal judges here in El Paso blocked the map from being used. KFOX 14 News at 9's Harrison Parker spoke with the head of the organization that sued to block the new map and is here to break down what all of this means. Harrison.
That's right, Jessica. The Supreme Court handing a win to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, at least for now, allowing the new congressional map to proceed for the 2026 midterms, while the highest court decides whether or not to strike down the gerrymander or allow it to sail through. Now, I spoke with the head of the League of United Latin American Citizens, commonly known as LULAC, about the case just minutes before the Supreme Court issued that win for Texas.
You know, that's always a challenge to read this particular Supreme Court. I mean, look, in Texas, these three judges, one that was actually appointed by Donald Trump, obviously sided with us in this particular case. They did see, based on the evidence that we were able to provide them, that this is racial gerrymandering. And so our hope is that the Supreme Court will obviously recognize effectively the same. But we will be ready to argue the case.
Juan Proaño is the CEO of the League of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC, which sued Texas to block its new congressional maps that gave the GOP 5 new seats in the U.S. House. LULAC accuses Governor Greg Abbott and the legislature of racial gerrymandering, which is prohibited by federal law. Today, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito agreed with Texas, halting a previous lower court ruling. LULAC had won its case earlier this week in a federal court here in El Paso, which ruled that Texas had explicitly used racial motives in drawing its new maps. That prompted Texas to file an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court, arguing its map was drawn solely for partisan purposes, which is legal. In its filing, the state argues in part, quote, "This summer, the Texas legislature did what legislatures do, politics. A map that has been gerrymandered to achieve a partisan end can look very similar to a racially gerrymandered map." Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton celebrated the ruling in a tweet, saying in part, quote, "We look forward to continuing to press forward in our case on the merits." In a tweet before the ruling, he had said in part, quote, "Radical left-wing activists are abusing the judicial system to derail the Republican agenda and steal the U.S. House for Democrats." Well, what comes next is uncertain, as SCOTUS can decide whether or not to take up the case, and from there, whether or not the map is constitutional. Both sides, though, say they're ready.